Ladies and gentlefolks, this is Officer Dan and crew back with another Gktech install vid. This time we're tackling our new and super useful Z33 350z rear subframe slip-in collars. So it's time to get that rear end in gear for all those uber-dank clutch kicks you'll be sending its way. These units are made from a proprietary 90 Shore poly mix and are designed to slip right into the notches that Nissan has questionably provided you from the factory, stopping them from excess movement and toning and firming that rear end just like you've always wanted. I do want to point out that Zach has acquired a new move. Look at that shimmy, man. Moving on to what you get inside, starting with the tiniest traffic cones you've ever seen, are these, which slip over the front brackets to fit the lower side of the bush. Next up are going to be the notched top hat inserts, which are to be fitted to the front top side of the bushing. Next up are the biggest of bushes, going into the bottom of the rear bushings and filling the empty cavities back there with the greatest of ease. Lastly, you're going to get the thicker notched C-shaped inserts, which fit into the rear bush at the top. For those of you sitting there wondering, how does this look whilst fitted? Well, here you go. Every single nook and cranny is filled by every notch we've placed on these bushings for maximum stiffness. Now it's time to perform a favorite activity of ours here at Gktech: lubrication. Grab a big old tub of lard, gather a heaping spoonful, and get to rubbing. Smother all the bushings liberally with the good stuff front and back. Once fully lubed up, let's head on over to the car and toss those suckers in. All members of this subframe congregation have now been introduced, so let's get this party started. Heading over to your whip, start by propping up your differential with the stand of your choosing, then remove the exhaust hanger thusly. You 100% do not want this to be the only thing holding the entire weight of the rear end for any reason whatsoever. Ask me how I know. Next, go ahead and unbolt the rear subframe nuts with your tool of choice by locating and zapping each nut off, then head up and remove the subframe brace by zipping off those bolts as well. Now, Tetris that brace on out of the way. This would be a good time to install some safety into your life by threading the subframe nuts on until all threads are engaged. This, my dudes, is called insurance, and yes, you are welcome. Now head to the front of the subframe and zip the bolts off that are supporting the connecting brace to the subframe bracket, and do the same for the other side. Head to the middle and disthread the remaining bolts there, as shown here. Now get that awkward boomerang out of your way for now. This leaves the subframe to chassis brackets, so let's get those off as well. Smash off the remaining bolts on the outside, the nuts in the middle, and the final nut on the chassis stud. Now get that bracket out of the way, and once again, toss on the old insurance nut a few threads up, just in case your subframe falls off your crappy bottle jack. These will catch it. Head to the other side and rinse, wash, and repeat what you just did, getting the brace unbolted and off the car, once again taking that all-important safety nut and threading it on a few because, well, safety. Now you can lower the entire subframe assembly down, which will give you all the room you need to toss them bushes in. Hot damn. Speaking of bushes, grab one of the notched C-collars and pop it in the top left side of the subframe, then grab one of the big boys, aka the extended pizza box proper uppers, and slip it in as shown here from the bottom side. Now head to the front of the subframe and install the larger of the C bushings to the top side, then head underneath and thread off the old safety nut, pop on the saddest traffic cone ever into the subframe brace, lift and install it as one unit, threading the safety nut back on as shown. Now move on to the other side, again grabbing the thinner of the C bushings, slipping it into the top, then the extended pizza table at the bottom. Once that's pushed in, go ahead and grab that subframe brace, install the tiny volcano that could, and install it as one unit to the subframe stud, winding on the safety nut to hold it in place. Those bushings are now installed, my dudes. Go ahead and yak the subframe up as high as it'll go, now with added stiffness of course, and let's proceed to install the alarming amount of braces back to the rear end. Start by zapping down the two heat shield nuts to attach the brace, zapping up the stud nut, then the two front bolts. Now head to the other side, again tossing on the nuts for the heat shield, zapping up the safety stud nut, and then the other two front bolts all sick-like. Now grab that brace, re-Tetris it back into place, popping the ends onto the studs and tightening down those nuts. Then head inward and get the brace bolts zapped up there, then get yourself ready for the torquing rampage you're about to embark on. Starting with the rear subframe brace nuts. On both the left and the right side, torque to the specs shown here, then head to the front studs and tighten and torque to these specs as well. Make sure to do so in a crisscross pattern as to prevent bindage. Now head up to the brace and hit that with these torque specs. Then get the heat shield on all proper by torquing down. Then the 2 front bolts. These specs shown as well. You can now disembark your jack and tell it good job, buddy, moving it out of the way and grabbing the world's most deadly boomerang and installing, then tightening the bolts that hold this thing in place. Now move to both the left and right hand sides, and once tight, grab Old Faithful and torque them down to the settings shown here. Head to the center bolts and hit those with these torque specs as well. Lastly, pop in that exhaust hanger bolt and, you know it, tighten, then torque to the specs shown right here on this very screen. Guess what, my dudes? Your rear end now has the stiffness you've always wanted without completely removing it, and it is also completely reversible for those who are into that kind of thing with their rear ends. These are them Gktech boys doing all the same stuff you love and know, aka drifting cars with best friends. If you can't install these parts, please have a professional do it and or reach out to us with any questions you may have. This has been Officer Dan, Johnny Caps, Josh, and Zach the Dangerous Boomerang coming at you with another Gktech How To. We'll catch you next time. Peace.